Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this 2022 series of the tête-à-tête interviews of Calista. I'm very proud and happy to finally host my old friend Steffen, CEO and founder of Moonfare, among many of his very long experience. Hi, Steffen.
Hello, Raja. Thanks for having me.
Well, no, it's great you took the time. I know how crazy Moonfare is going right now, but I have to say I'm both proud and embarrassed to have you online today for this interview, because I don't know if you realize, but we've known each other since 1997. And I'll always remember at the time you were still at BCG, not yet at even KKR. And just for our audience, because I feel I never really lost track with you, but given that our audience are entrepreneurs, investors, and families, they don't necessarily know the faces behind the company. It would be great who you are beside having founded Moonfare.
Thank you. First of all, very much, Raja, for having me. It's terrific to be with Calista today. Look, think about me in terms of background as a mix between an entrepreneur and an investor. You said that back there in the 90s, I started my career with BCG. Very shortly thereafter, I founded my first company. You would call it a fintech company today. First five, I was running it as a CEO for a couple of years. Really went through all the ups and downs, 2009, 9/11, etc. Sold then the company to a smaller private equity player, joined KKR. They were looking for people with operational background. So I was building out their operations team in London. Did this for a couple of years, and then I moved over to the deal side, became responsible for the German activities of the firm. And in 2015, then I decided to go back to my, call it, entrepreneurial roots. And I set up a couple of businesses. One that most importantly, and this is what we talk about, Moonfare, but I also launched a smaller 100 million tech fund in the US. I did a Spark. I launched an investment boutique. But most importantly, Moonfare. And what really made me, or intrigued me about Moonfare is the idea to democratize private equity. I knew private equity would be an incredible asset class from a risk-return perspective, and I wanted to make this available to call it the ordinary private investor.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it gives a good insight because you come from the institutional world and the deal-making world. So we always ask ourselves why we do something. You seem to want to democratize PE. You first were just the founder, now you're the CEO. But what was your most decisive step, and the first one, I would say, at the beginning, to make sure that this is going to be a perennial company, because the startup risk, as we know, is very high?
Yeah, look, there was one thing really we discussed at length at KKR, and that was probably a result of the financial crisis. And the industry was more and more thinking about how can we untap the largest pool of capital that's out there, which is not yet in private equity. And this is the pool of capital that sits with private individuals. And we had endless discussions, and the same happened at Blackstone and Carlyle and all the other larger shops about how can we, so to say, democratize the space. Now think about and put yourself into the shoes of a KKR or Blackstone. They are not really equipped to, administrate and handle and manage tickets of 100, 200,000 euros. So the industry was really looking for a solution, and of course, this solution has to be digital to handle and to untap and to get access to this pool of capital. So of course, then the other key trend that was driving me was the zero interest policy. So there was a search for yield. Everyone was, and the need for yield. Everyone was looking also from the private individual side to figure out ways to smartly invest their capital. But the bad point was there was a lack of access. If you take numbers, on average, an institutional investor invests up to 25%, some do 50% and more, Yale Endowment, Harvard, etc., into private markets, in particular into private equity. But the private individual, on average, is only investing 3%. And the reason are twofold. One is lack of access. So you need a minimum, as you know, of 10 million and more to invest directly into the top shops in the industry. And the second point is really a lack of education. People that are managing their wealth privately typically don't take a professional approach, top-down approach when it comes to asset allocation. It's more like a bottom-up. They buy here, they have real estate there, they have some stocks, and suddenly you have an asset allocation that in most cases doesn't make much sense because you are under-allocated to private markets. And this is exactly what I wanted to change. But now, to your question, Raja, the difficult part was really when I started the company, people said, look, who on earth will invest 200,000 euros over a digital platform into a KKR, a new asset class, not known, a lot of money, a pure digital process. And one of the very famous bankers in Europe I talked to was saying, look, this is the most stupid idea I've ever heard back there in 2015. So one of the huge obstacles in the beginning was really that very few people said that there is a business model. And this has changed dramatically, as you know. Now everyone is talking about private markets go retail.
But you wouldn't say that you were just lucky to benefit from the trend. What did you do that the company survived and thrived kind of immediately? I don't know. I discovered Moonfare with you in 2000, I think 18, late 18. But what was the first, if you look back, the first thing you did which made it sustainable in a way?
You look, first of all, it sounds a little bit pathetic, but it was really the conviction and belief that this would work. And then, you know, what you face in my industry is what I call a chicken egg problem. Because when I for the first time talked to one of the larger funds, in this case it was EQT, and my friend Markus Brannecker said to me, look, you are asking me now for an allocation of 10 million, but where are your damn customers? Where are the customers? I want to see and be sure that you can deliver the money. And I said to Markus, I first need a fund because I need something to offer and the customers will follow. And he said, okay, if you don't get the customers together, I expect you to put down the 10 million from your own pocket. Of course, I didn't have the money, but we had a handshake and I said, okay, I do it. So the most critical moment, probably apart from getting the team together, getting, you know, the spirit, the conviction transferred into a broader group of people that are working on this mission, was really to get the first fund on the platform.
And the right fund, the right fund, and with the right relationship and trust and the conviction. I like the answer very much.
In the beginning, that was probably one of the most important things that I knew the industry, I knew the acting player, and there was a mutual level of trust.
No, I always say that you come from the industry, you're an insider, you're not seen as an intermediary or an amateur who just decided to launch something. And I mentioned the magic word of sustainable. I know it's a very slippery territory now, but part of me, as I know the company quite well, feels like saying that you are sustainable, you provide wider access, you're very streamlined online. So if we think even of the net zero economy, I mean, you're contributing to less paper, etc. And in the end, you contribute to support the real economy because the funds you invest in, that's what they do. But I don't know if you agree with this statement. What do you do at the company level now that I think you're really in tight leadership of it to make Moonfare relevant also from a social welfare standpoint?
Yeah, look, the overarching theme, and this is really already the social welfare point, I fully agree with your statement, is really, Raja, that we are out there to democratize the market. And if you talk to my team, this is really what drives them. What we want is, to make this beautiful asset class available at the end to everyone, with the ultimate target of prosperity for all. Yeah? And the other point, and there are in total three, is what drives us. This is really, as you rightly say, a global innovation. Yeah, what we did and what we have innovated in out of Germany, and now we are taking the model into the world. We are now active in 14 countries. We are across Europe. We are in Asia. We are opening up our office in Singapore as we speak. Really to take an innovation in the digital world into the world. That's really the second point. And then the third point, and this is not a buzzword for us, we are thinking a lot about diversity. We are thinking a lot about impact. We are thinking about what can we do to make this world a better place. And one of the things, for instance, we're doing is, apart from giving this access, and I'm convinced this is for social reasons, for stability, etc. Very, very important what we are doing. We are also launching, more and more products in the impact space. We will very soon have one of the best impact funds, very famous one. Can't, for regulatory reason, state the name here, from the US on the platform in Q1. But also as a firm, we are developing concepts, how can we combine yield and search for yield with impact. So one of the things we are thinking about, that our investors, give some parts of their returns into impact projects, and we will do more in this space. So we have a couple of angles, how we call it, approach our contribution to sustainability.
And as a female investor and friend, can I ask the question of women at the firm and how you tackle this?
Yeah, look, in terms of investors, we do what we can, of course, to market and to educate people. Yeah. To be totally honest, still the vast majority of our investors are more on the male side, but that's probably a problem that the banks are facing as well. We as a firm, for instance, we have a quota of female employees, which is north of 40%.
I met a few of your female leaders. They're amazing.
Yeah, they are, and we are doing. There's more to come. Yeah, we are really committed to increase this number going forward, and we hope, of course, that we will have more female investors.
Okay. Well, you mentioned going into 14 countries. I keep being approached by many platforms. There's a lot going on online. It tends to be local offering, but in Europe and in Asia, and also in the US, of course, there's a lot going on. So how do you differentiate from all the other players? And I know you're a first mover, but that's not enough anymore.
Yeah, look, that's a very good question. I was a bit concerned when we became operational in 2018 and then 19, and I was looking around in Europe and in Asia, and there was no one else in the beginning. It was really literally us, and I was asking myself, maybe you are taking the wrong path. And then suddenly we saw copycats all over the place. We can't count them anymore in Asia and Europe, even in the US, doing and partially copying really point for point our webpage. Look, the way I see it is twofold. First of all, the market is so huge. It's less a problem about market size. It's more about educating people. And all these players out there, they help me to educate the world. And now when it comes to, who is like the leading platform out there, this is, of course, us. And I tell you why. Of course, I have to say, and I'm convinced we have an incredible team. We have great relationships with the GPs. But the most important thing really at the end is, you said it, first mover and scale. And why is scale here so important? This is really why we have the best offering. We have an incredible investment team, and we really leave no stone unturned. But the reason why we are becoming more and more relevant and the leading platform in the world is because of our scale. Now we are at 1.5 billion in assets under management. And of course, if you go to a KKR or a Carlyle or AQT and you say, hey, we sign up for 100 million in your next flagship fund, you get a very different access to their best products as opposed to a player who comes up with 5 million and they are not certain if they even deliver. And this is why we keep on investing. We keep on investing in the customer experience. We keep on investing in our products. We have developed our own products. We have the largest private equity program of any player in the world, and that includes the banks. There is no program out there. If you take the UBSs, the Goldmans, or the Credit Suisse, that is broader or better in quality than ours. And why is it? Because we are doing only this. We are focusing on it, and we have reached already a level of relationships and scale that really sets us apart from others.
I think you're seen as an insider by the firms. I mean, having been in PE for 20 years, it makes a big difference if you speak to a fellow deal maker, investor, or someone who has a very different background as a advisor or intermediary. But as a shareholder, very small, of Moonfare, I have to ask you a question about governance, because I've seen how you've evolved. I've seen also how your cap table has now come to include Insight and Fidelity, which are not the smallest of investors. How has governance evolved, and how do you keep, your firm being favorable to your customers and your investors, even the smaller ones? And I think for a firm that's grown so much, it's a key topic.
No, definitely. Look, I'm a big believer that if you want to build something from scratch, and you have to be fast, you have to be bold in a way. It's really of benefit if the entrepreneur is in charge and control. And this is exactly how I've set up the company. We're in the beginning, we had 140 very accretive, very important, but smaller shareholders. And basically, it was a very much centralized decision making. And that was very, very important in the beginning, Raja, because we took a couple of decisions that you would probably, would be less courageous in a more institutional environment. We started Asia as early as 2019, 1 year after we became active in Europe. We developed very soon, and I still remember the headwind, even from my team, our own products. We have portfolio products where people, I call them one-stop shopping products, can invest into growth equity, into buyout, and very soon, by the way, into venture. So in the beginning, to take all these bold decisions, that was really key. But as you rightly say, as a company is growing, and now we are scaling so fast, we have more than 2.5x growth year over year in the past 12 months. I said that we are at 1.5 billion. We will be more than 3 billion in a year from now. It was very important to call it professionalize or institutionalize it. And now with Inside Partners and their investment together with Fidelity of roughly 125 million, this is really the right point in time where we want to and where we will institutionalize the company towards more, call it a grown-up company. And will use, of course, also the institutional backing and leverage in terms of relationships. And we have a great partnership with Fidelity in Europe when it comes to distributing to B2B partners, to banks and intermediaries. We are now in a different stage. But I only can say in the beginning that it was very, very crucial for us to be as independent as possible.
But I hope you stay as CEO and you remain entrepreneurial in spirit. And as we conclude, Steffen, so when our investors watch this interview, what should we do right afterwards? Go on the platform and what? Open an account or? Well,
really, a no regret move in my view is go to www.moonfare.com and sign up. It's a registration process that costs you a minute. You get automatically then informed about all the fund offerings, everything that's happening on the platform. You get access to an incredible amount of content. And then if you say, look, I want to go one step further, you can sign up for the investments. It's a process that takes you 50 minutes, 1-5, and you are able to invest into any given fund on the platform. Take a look and just browse a bit. And I always say to people, look, don't rush when it comes to investment decisions. This is money, this is important. So take a look, just learn about the platform, learn what we are offering, be part of our webinars, be part of our Deal Talk formats where we interview some of the most renowned people in the industry, learn about the asset class, make yourself familiar, and then find the right time to invest into a fund where you have trust.
Oh, that's fantastic. And also we should say we're not here to talk about regulation, but it is still for qualified investors, right? So it's not anybody from the street who can subscribe to your fund. So you're very careful to have the right thresholds, I guess.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, it's still, but for good reasons, a regulated industry. We think this will change, by the way, over time. And there are trends and developments in the US already where the SEC is opening up the definition of qualified investor more and more. This will be happening globally, but for now it's really for qualified or call it professional investors in Europe.
Anything you want to share with us exclusively at Calista before we wrap up, Steffen?
Look, there's one thing, but please keep it for you for the time being. We will announce it, end of this month. And this is really also one of the reasons why we are glad to welcome Insight to our shareholder group. We will migrate and conquer and enter into the US market.
Oh, wow.
Very soon, largest market, of course, high net worth individuals in the world. It's something really, it's a bold move, I must say, but something we are totally convinced about. We have already, as we speak, a team on the ground. We have already an office. And as I said, in 2 weeks' time, US American citizens, wherever they live, can access the Moonfare platform and can invest into best of private equity and US venture.
Well, best wishes, keep us posted and keep doing so great. Very impressive, Steffen. See you soon, I hope, in Berlin or London or Luxembourg.